it differently.
Oh, thank you. And we welcome our team member,
So I can't stop.
Cassandra.
Am I? Look all right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna start today with our officer elections. We have 4 candidates for I think 2 each for vice chair and chair. And we will, and so we're gonna have folks, I guess we can do this a couple ways, but I was thinking that we would just do the nominee speeches by officer role, like just do the, the one role, do the speeches and then vote and then the next, if that works for folks. Okay. And I don't know how to put up the 2-minute timer, but I have a phone. So, okay. And we want to give folks up to 3 minutes. I know that feels like pressure. So or the 2 minutes for me feels like pressure. I'm just thinking of my public comment life. So I'm saying, take the 3 minutes if you need them. And then we will vote. Because it's an official vote, I'll go through the name list the way we've done in the past. And so we'll give folks 2 to 3 minutes. You're welcome to share whatever you'd like to share. I gave a couple, tips in the email, or like we've talked a little bit about it, but I think folks know what they're, everyone's wonderful here. So there's not much. And then we'll leave space for questions if that is something that folks want to ask questions before the vote. And then we'll do the voting.
Just from a procedural standpoint, I didn't quite hear. The candidates will make their statements per office. For instance, president or the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Both chair, we hear from them and then we'll vote.
Yes.
And then we'll hear from the vice chair, then we'll vote.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you for So I think it makes more sense to do one officer at a time, rather than all 4.
Sure.
If that's okay for folks. Okay. And we can get started. Does anyone need anything before we get started? Okay. And I just want to confirm. So for chair, I have Mr. Lauren Dalbert and Reverend Edward Harris. And for vice chair, I have Dr. Jalema. Okay, sorry.
I can see.
I was just informed that I pronounced it wrong by my colleagues. I want to make sure I did it right. And Walter McMath. So I'm right about that.
Are there anyone else that wanted to nominate themselves or to nominate others that weren't included?
Well, I didn't quite hear I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear the vice chair names.
The vice chairs are Jalama Nichols. Jalema. Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay. Jalema Nichols and Walter McMath for vice chair.
Okay, and then the chairs.
Lauren Dalbert.
Okay.
And Reverend Edward Harris.
Okay, I got it.
Awesome.
So I will go ahead and start with chairs. So with Lauren, would you like to start with offering some remarks?
Sure. So focus on the vision. I'll start with a quick story. It was that in 1942, my grandmother, she became unhoused with 4 children. And she went to the Salvation Army to ask for some help. And those fine white Christians turned her away, telling her, "We don't help niggas here." And that experience, when it was shared with me, basically kind of helped answer one of the questions that I had about pathologies in America. The pathologies of the descendants of American slaves, the pathology of the descendants of the American slavers, and then the pathology of everybody in between. And that answered the question of the pathology of many people who never owned slaves, but they don't help niggas here. And that is the environment in which we are trying to build something to help the descendants of American slaves here in Contra Costa County. And that is our reality, is that we are trying to build something to heal our people in an environment that is hostile to that environment. And because I understand at least that aspect of the work, for me, the vision is to create a wellness network that not only helps the descendants of American slaves, but will help everybody else, because if we can heal us, we can heal anybody. And so that vision of creating something that we really haven't seen an example of it yet, because I don't think it actually exists yet. And so that vision of keeping our level of vision extremely high of what it is that we can actually build here in the county long-term, like Peter says, we can't, within this short time period, try and fix all the racism in Contra Costa County. But we can get it started in the right direction. And so for me, that is the vision, is to build something that does serve our people and does focus on our people, but does benefit all of the residents of Contra Costa County. My leadership style is very adaptive. I adapt to the needs of the work. It's very non-prescriptive, more developmental approach to doing community-centered, human-centered work, because that work is very contextualized to the location that you're working in. And so it takes a leadership style that really has the ability to figure it out a lot of the times, especially if you're working in a space where there aren't any instructions. When I worked in the IT space, I did a lot of systems integration work where you're integrating two different programs. Oh, how much time did I run out yet? All right, last thing is commitment to the wellness network, is that I will commit to not cuss too much if I'm chosen as chair. And I'll pass it on to Brother Ed.
And I apologize. Would it be helpful if when you have 1 minute left, I just put my finger up?
Going forward, yeah.
That would help, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no worries.
I apologize. I didn't think about that piece.
Pastor Harris.
Greetings, everybody. I'm Edward Harris, Senior. I'm known as Pastor Ed. I serve as the Agape Fellowship and Zion Church pastor in Antioch. I stand basically as a legacy to the late federal supervisor, Federal Glover, and I'm committed to building his vision on a firm foundation that lasts, that endures. Our mission is to ensure that the Contra Costa County's most vulnerable are supported in a holistic and compassionate and dignified way. My leadership style is grounded in both professional excellence and in community-centered collaboration. As a master certified facilitator, I lead strategic conversations that build alignment, ensure that every voice has meaningful space to be heard, and transformation of dialogue into actionable items. I also bring a strong competency in parliamentary procedure, use the Robert's Rules of Order to ensure that our meetings are efficient and transparent and productive. I believe in leadership is positive. It has to be positive, productive, purposeful, measurable, and it has to be sustainable. Always compassion, unity, and integrity. And finally, my commitment to the TCAB is they entrusted to us to do phase one of the responsibilities, and that's simply to provide clear information to review the eligible criteria, supporting outreach and recruitment of highly qualified candidates, and helping us to meet the objectives, which is urgency and accountability. Lives and futures depend on the work that we do here, and I offer my dedication, my heart, to transform lives in Contra Costa County and to honor the vision of the late Supervisor Federal Glover. Together, through the strength of this network, we can make it happen. And my job is also, if I'm elected, will be make sure we don't get caught up in scope creep. And as I finish up this last thing, I had the opportunity to raise
7 boys and 3 girls. And African-American male children raising in this country, in this county, has been a challenge. And so I've been through it. I know it. If you talk about lived experience, I had one that in fact, thought he was Al Capone. And so I had to keep him going in and out of jail and whatnot. So I do understand, and the others are doing pretty good. And so that's who I am. That's what I do. And just hoping that I can serve and serve well.
Got a question. You said get caught up in, and then I missed that word.
Scope creep.
Scope creep?
Yes.
What is that?
Scope creep is when you have a assigned agenda, and then what happens is the agenda just keeps getting larger and larger and larger, as opposed to staying focused on what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And so scope creep happens in situations like this quite often. So as the facilitator, my job is to make sure we don't get caught up in scope creep.
Appreciate it.
And even with a question, you stay within 3 minutes. Thank you.
Any other questions from the members?
Or either candidate. People feel like they have the information they need to make a vote.
I'm sorry, this is gonna be an acclamation, voice vote. The vote is gonna be voice vote or.
One by one. For the record.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We're gonna go around and call roll and ask
Yeah.
for you to submit your vote verbally.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, Zalon.
Is it possible that when people are speaking, you guys can turn the camera? Because we only got to see one of the candidates speak on Zoom. I don't know if the camera's stuck in that direction or, because we didn't get to see the first candidate on Zoom.
Oh, thank you, Zalon. We will turn off the slide deck so that you can see the room, but we don't have the camera set up in such a way where you can see both sides of the room.
It used to, some.
We can move over there.
But however, for the next, yes, maybe if Dr. Nichols, for the next round, Dr. Nichols and Mr. McMahon could come onto this side for the screen. But for now, we'll go ahead and take the vote. Zalon, thank you though. Stop sharing.
It would be helpful if we could see the person speaking or even who's being voted upon.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, usually the camera was like moving to the speaker, but I think that the tech shifted it from that because with such a big room, that could be really weird. And also I hear what you're saying, that it's hard to anchor the conversation without the view.
So with that being said, we want going.
no, yeah, actually, what I'm gonna ask is if Lauren and Jelena, can you actually switch seats over here just for the sake of the camera?
Yeah.
Apologies, yeah.
Yeah, okay, because we can see. Okay, we can see, okay. And so, yeah, so just for folks who are online, Dr. Nichols and Mr. Dalbert are moving into the camera view. Reverend Harris and Walter McMath are already visible by the camera. So as they call it.
Okay, so for the folks at home, we just heard from Pastor Ed Harris. Can you raise your hand? That is Pastor Harris. And then we also heard from Lauren Dalbert. All right, those are your two nominees for the chair. So we're gonna go ahead around the room. And we're gonna just do a quick roll call vote. And if you could go ahead and submit your vote by naming who it is that you're gonna put your vote in for. And we will go ahead and tally that. Sure.
Leslie Brown,
Pastor Harris.
Mariah Bruce,
Pastor Harris.
Angela Butler Owens,
Pastor Harris.
Rachel Corona,
Pastor Harris.
Lauren Delbert,
Pastor Harris. No, honestly, I told my friend, I put my name in the hat because I just wanted to tell that story in this room.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for telling the story. Pastor Harris,
Pastor Harris.
Bianca Lachow,
Pastor Harris.
Dr. Payne, abstains from voting.
Not
Or
abstain,
not
because,
abstain.
because Dr. Payne is not actively present today due to being online, she is unable to vote today.
Walter McMath,
Pastor Harris?
Jelena Nichols,
Pastor Harris.
Betty Obembe,
Pastor Harris.
and Willie Robinson.
Harris.
Thank you all. Thank you both for stepping up, throwing your name in the hat. Thank you. Pastor Ed, thank you, Warren. Congratulations, Pastor Ed, for getting the nomination and the vote.
Okay, and so we'll move into voting for vice chair. Okay, and so,
We'll just try to talk to Nicholas. Her name comes up, Jay.
okay,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Dr. Jelena Nichols, and I'm deeply honored to accept the nomination by TCAB member Angela Butler Owens for the position of vice chair for the TCAB. It is truly a privilege to be considered for board service in the development of Federal Glover Community Wellness Network, an initiative that's rooted in the belief that community wellness must be whole, accessible, and sustained across generations, especially for the African-American residents of Contra Costa County. My vision for this network aligns directly with the powerful purpose Supervisor Federal Glover championed: the creation of a wellness center that is not only a place of care, but a true hub of disease prevention, dignity, leadership, and economic mobility for our community. And as Supervisor Glover so powerfully said, this center exists to ensure our community is quote unquote, not just surviving, but truly thriving. This is a vision I care deeply about and personally about. Professionally, I bring over 15 years of executive leadership across public health, biopharmaceuticals, and workforce development. I hold a Doctor of Education in Organizational Change and Leadership from the University of Southern California, a Master of Public Health from the George Washington University, and Executive Education and Healthcare Marketing from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. I've also served in senior leadership roles at Fortune 500 companies, including GlaxoSmithKline, which is a biopharmaceutical company, and Thermo Fisher Scientific, which is a global biotech company. As a healthcare executive, I've led national clinical teams, including nurses and pharmacists, supported sales teams in pharmaceuticals across multiple states, and driven global market development strategy and genetic analysis. I also began my career as a public health researcher in oral health and oral cancer at the National Institutes of Health. Across every role in which I've served the public, my focus has remained consistent: expanding access to healthcare, closing health gaps, and delivering measurable outcomes that advance health equity. My leadership style is transformational. It's grounded in 3 principles: trust first, accountability always, and growth continuously. Trust builds engagement, accountability drives results, and growth sustains the long-term impact that this network so desperately needs. I also lead with data and strategy, but I also lead with humanity, because in community-centered work like this, how we lead matters just as much as what we deliver. This moment of selecting a vice chair for our TCAB calls for stewardship, strategy, and shared accountability. I would be honored to bring my diverse experiences in healthcare leadership, my voice, and my full heart to advancing the powerful vision of Supervisor Glover that is already set in motion by everyone at this table. Thank you for your consideration, and it would be a privilege to serve as your vice chair for the TCAB.
I almost want to clap.
I know, me too.
A question?
Any questions?
Actually, maybe we'll let's let Walter do this and then maybe we can ask questions of both. Walter?
Sure. Well, you guys all know me. I am Walter McMath. I am a Bay Area native. I grew up in Oakland. I went to Princeton University, and then I went to law school at Berkeley Law, and I've been practicing law right here in the Bay Area since 2009. And in that capacity, I have done direct representation of the people in a lot of different milieus and contexts. I've been on the civil side, been on the criminal side. Right now, my job is doing law in motion, supporting multiple legal teams where they give me legal problems every day, and I look at the relevant laws and I try to come up with solutions. And often those are very creative, depending upon what we're able to do with the statutes that we have. With respect to vision, what I really want to focus on is holistic wellness. And I want to say that again. I want to say holistic wellness because we have a really interesting and unique opportunity here to try to address the problems of our African American population here in our Contra Costa community, but also the problems of the larger population. Because as we kind of all talked about at the recent 40 Voices visit that happened, Black problems are people problems. And we often see that, well, Black problems are people problems. I don't need to say it better than that. I think we have a great opportunity to set an example in this fashion, and I'll say more about that. But I want to turn a little bit to my own personal leadership style. And in referencing that, I want to talk a little bit about the blind man and the elephant. We've all heard this story where there are some blind folks and they find an elephant and they encounter different parts of it. And one person touches the side and says that the elephant is like a wall. And another person touches the leg and says that the elephant is like a tree. And another person touches the tail and says that the elephant is like a rope. Yes, Peter, am I out of time?
No, you have one more minute.
And so obviously we all have to work together in order to get a complete picture. My greatest skill is in communications. I've tried cases in California in the double digits, which means that I've brought in juries from all walks of life and talked to them to try to get them to do something in the name of justice. I think we have a really similar opportunity here. I think we have the chance to call people in instead of call people out, try to make everybody feel that their voices are heard, try to make everybody feel that their feelings are heard. We heard a lot of righteous anger at the 40 Voices Forum, and we want to make sure that people have a voice for processing feelings while also seeing the progress that we're making. And I think ultimately, that's my greatest strength is bringing my communication skills to bear in what I see us having the chance to build here, which is an example for everyone and something that just doesn't exist yet. Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from members of the body?
I have a question probably for both of you. Neither of you, both of you come with very substantial background in this area. But I think the position as vice chair would be to facilitate this meeting and your understanding of Robert Rules of Order and how to move those along. And Reverend Harris coined maybe a coined term to talk about that term that you explained, scope creep. I'm concerned about facilitating the meeting, getting in and out on time, staying with the agenda. Neither will you address that.
Sure, I'm happy to address that from my perspective and experience. I've had the experience of being a vice chair for a nonprofit board, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America for the San Francisco Bay Area. So Robert's Rules of Order is something I'm very familiar with. In reading the description of the vice chair, I'm very well equipped, and I consider myself an expert as well as assisting now Pastor Harris, who's been selected to co-facilitate. And to the last point around the scope creep, or even as I like to say, groupthink, I'm very much a curious type of a learner. And so I consider myself an analytical person. So I'm willing to ask the hard questions and to challenge us to think differently, and also to balance the room in terms of how we express and align ourselves with our community agreements to move forward the agenda that we have in the vision of Supervisor Glover. So that is my answer to the question. Are there any follow-ups?
or Walter wants to also respond to the same question.
Thanks, Peter. So the bylaws charge the vice chair with presiding in the absence of the chair, with calling meetings to order, with introducing agenda items, with inviting public comment, and with representing the TCAB in inquiries and presentations to the Equity Committee and Board of Supervisors. And in every respect, my record matches these duties. I've overseen legal operations and managed high-volume calendars. I can run a meeting, I can frame issues succinctly, I can solicit input, I can keep discussions on track. I'm practiced at introducing complex topics and doing it with fair time management. And also, I spent a little time as a music teacher to high school special needs kids. So I dare say that I've brought a lot of those skills as well to bear in that milieu. And I think I can do that here as well.
Now, any follow-up questions to either our candidates?
And online, Dr. Payne, I know you're not feeling well, but you can feel free to use the chat if that's helpful. Okay. I'm gonna go in backwards alphabetical order this time to keep it exciting. Sorry. Willie Robinson. Also, we'll now start the vote.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking for your vote.
Oh, you asked.
Yeah, I'm going in,
Oh,
yeah, I'm just going in.
I'm not recalling seeing Dr. Nichols, yes.
Nedu Bimbe,
Walter?
Dr. Nichols,
Dr. Nichols?
Walter,
Walter?
Bianca,
Walter.
Reverend Harris,
Dr. Nichols.
Lauren Dalbert,
Dr. Nichols.
Rachel Corona,
Dr. Nichols.
Angela Butler Owens,
Dr. Nichols.
Mariah Bruce,
Dr. Nichols.
Leslie Brown.
Dr. Nichols.
May I? Yes, exactly. May I make a statement? We're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Nobody won, nobody lost. Just have different roles, responsibilities at this point. We need everybody on the team to make sure we get everything done. So I don't want anybody to feel discouraged. We just got work to do. And now we've got all of us working together. We just got a couple of roles that we have to fill, but everybody here is important. And I just want everybody to know that nobody shrink back. Everybody participate the same way we would, so we can just get it done. And that's critical. So that's my point. So everybody brings skills. Thank you. Bring stuff to the table. Let's get it done.
I echo the same sentiment. We're a team, and I thought this was so difficult where you had to make this decision amongst qualified candidates. You guys, we all bring something different to the table, so just keep in mind, it's not like we're excluding. Whatever your value is, Walter, we need that. We need yours as well. So I just wanted to say that because it was so hard to.
Just so you know, I really did not want to be chosen as chair because I've got too much work on my plate. I really just wanted to tell that story. Yeah, and I'm about to get another brand new contract that is gonna prevent me from being able to do the chair role, so I'm glad I didn't get chosen. Yeah.
I wanna say from the top, the first time we introduced the idea of officer roles, we had crickets. We had one person who came forth, and then there was the nominations. So, I think it's really beautiful. It's shown a lot of leadership from folks already so far. I think this is such a fantastic group of folks, and so continue to, some folks have been individually giving me ideas or, sharing things with me, continue to do that. I love that there was some fellowship at the top of this meeting, folks getting to know one another, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this work. And also, to working with the chair and co-chair so that I can, make sure that I'm like serving the best interests. I know that I have heavy agendas. And so, yeah, I really appreciate like being able to, work with some of you more closely, but the door is open for everyone to shine and to share.
So can we have, can we add value by being timekeepers so that we can also keep time? I know, it's the chair and the co-chair's responsibility, but we can all lean in and say, we're on track or we need a potty break or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So you're volunteering?
I'm volunteering to,
Yes.
Yes.
We agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you, because I often ask for timekeepers, because I'm not the best, that's not my bet, I'm really good at lots of things, that's not my favorite one. And I'll just say, if there's anyone, if there's public comment.
Yeah, we have a public comment before we make. After we see if there's public comment, we're gonna actually have to have a motion from someone in the group to accept and approve the election of Pastor Harris for chair and Dr. Nichols as vice chair. And then we'll take a vote just to accept these, that your votes are received. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. Okay. Can we get a motion to accept and approve this election? Okay, so Walter to accept and approve the election.
Walter. All right.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Thank you. Okay, yes, okay. Who's my Leslie Brown? Okay, yeah, we'll just go around the room. Sorry, I don't have my alphabetical list. Bianca? Eddie? Angela?
Yes.
Ryan? Lauren?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
All right,
Great.
motion passed. So,
Yay. Okay, we don't, I put the pause. Oh, wait, we'll go back to sharing screen. But we don't need it. No. Should we move forward with the next agenda item?
Yes.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, where are we next? Okay. So. RFQ. Review. So I just put some like key questions together. Are the service coordination expectations clear? And we'll see some of these pieces. Do the qualifications reflect community realities? Are we weighting organizational experience appropriately? Are culturally rooted practices fully represented? And what expertise must a lead entity have to steward the network? And I know this is like a lot of words, but I wanted to make sure that I lifted exactly what was in there. So folks got a chance to see this. Okay, so it's the same as everyone has seen. This is directly how it is. But essentially the scope of services includes network coordination. And that's among county, community-based and other partners. So that's the range of public and private partners, and to align and integrate programs and services offered via the mobile, pop-up and satellite sites, and to support referral and coordination processes. Organizational development. So this person, the entity, is to either hire an executive director or serve as that one, recruit and convene a board, and develop and nurture partnerships with the county. So I'm not reading word for word, but I'm just kind of like saying some of the key components of each of these. For infrastructure development, they're supposed to provide technical support, strategic planning, and direction to the executive director or to the network if they're serving as that. And provide organizational infrastructure, including administrative support and resources. to carry out programming and duties and to identify and secure satellite sites to house network programs and services. So once a physical site is established in East County, they're still gonna need to provide an infrastructure there, as well as for our partners co-locating for services at this site and the satellite sites. Data integration and outcomes, so collaborating with county agency and community-based partners to use common data collection tools and identify impact indicators and outcomes for all partners to track, encourage responsible data sharing among partners while ensuring participant confidentiality, trust and safety, and monitoring program activities and progress reports that track people served, milestones achieved, and deliverables met. And then best practices and continuous improvement. This is one of my favorite things in life. Identify and share evidence-based promising and community-defined best practices with partners, coordinate capacity building and training opportunities for all partners engaged in service provision, and nurture a culture of learning, collaboration, and coordination, or coordinated service delivery among network service partners and providers. Networking convenings, coordinated site visits, strategic thought partnerships, et cetera. And then, of course, resource development. So working with public systems, business and community and philanthropic partners to identify and pursue funding opportunities to develop and implement a 10-year fund development and sustainability plan. So we've talked about all those things before, and these are just like the ways in which we've phrased them for the RFQ for the scope of services.
Can I actually provide some framing?
Please.
Okay, so we started first with this RFQ. This implementation entity is going to be crucial. It's going to be critical to the growth and establishment of this network. So this is why we're focusing here first. This is a big job, a lot of moving pieces. So if that hasn't become clear, we would love to have a conversation with you all to just see if the RFQ in of itself is clear. Do all the elements that this entity is going, that the city is going to be accountable to, are they easily understood? Would anyone who reads this, will they understand what's being asked? So that's one big question. Is it clear? Do you have questions just as to the scope of what this RFQ lays out? Then the question is like, okay, it's clear. Yes, we know and we understand exactly what's being asked. Would anyone apply? Would you apply? Right? And not you specifically, but if you were someone seeking an opportunity and you feel you are eligible and qualified, would you apply? Why or why not? Because we absolutely want to forecast and anticipate if folks will be stepping forward because there's an opportunity that they don't want to miss and they want to participate in, or is there something in here that pops out at you like saying, this is not going to draw us the applicants that we need to make to really have a good qualified applicant. So we're just going to pause right there first. Other areas that we want to kind of dive into, like eligibility. What do we really want to lift up to ensure that people that do apply are qualified and that we know that we're going to be getting the best possible applicant or candidate to recommend. We'll pause there. There are other places that we can dive into, but does that kind of make sense in terms of starting with this one and what the ask is for you all in terms of how you're going to lead into this process? What would?
This is the basis, or that's of course called the framework for their RFQ.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
This is the RFQ.
this is the RFQ. If I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it to come on board and set this up. Maybe I've got the card, maybe there's some components, parts of this that I would want to see or get a better feel for in terms of what you're asking to be done and the manpower it's going to take, because that's also going to reflect the resources or the funds for doing it. So there's a lot that's going through my mind about if I saw this, what would drive me to apply for it. If there's some parts of it that I'm sure they're going to come. That's not shown right here. And this is not, obviously this is at the very foundation of it, but I'm sure that we're going to be building it out at least to some kind of organizational structure, et cetera, so that one can get a feel for how do we carry this out, or that's going to be the expectation from the applicant.
So, thank you so much. I'll say that everything on here is directly from the RFQ, which everyone got via email, I think 2 weeks ago. There's a part where there's suggested staffing. And we also ask that, you know, also folks who are applying, they could create their own staffing. There's some, you know, they could provide their own model or their own approach to the work. Same with the budget. There's like a suggested budget and for how that would be used. And so I think for those parts of the infrastructure, I'm like, I don't know, and there were more questions, but I'm trying to think. I know those, for example, have already been laid out in the RFQ. So the opportunity, so a scaffolding, or excuse me, like kind of like like a structure has been provided. And also there's the option for someone to offer their own approach regarding those things, the staffing and the budget and the kind of organizational aspect. Beyond the like direct staff, there's also the ask of the board of directors and then also a community board as well. So, I don't know if I missed the full question.
It was just the,
Oh, you were just saying, initially, when I'm looking at this, I don't see enough. Oh, because the slides are just like one slide, it's already hard. I already crammed a ton of words, but I just wanted to share, like, the way I shared it was like the things that we talked about and that we, you know, the scope of work, I just put that up at one time. So we just went through the scope of work. This one here is just about the year one deliverables. So again, these are all like directly, I didn't even change like any of the wording, but there's a few more slides that kind of go through the main components that we discussed, but maybe not all of those aspects of the role that you
Can we get any other
touched on.
questions? Let's get some questions out there so we can just kind of start the conversation. You asked the question whether here, is the money adequate enough? Are we gonna have more time in the meeting to talk about infrastructure and develop kind of the staffing model? I heard those questions. I think we had a question here.
This time check, 59 minutes remaining.
Okay, Pastor, and then we'll go to Bianca.
Well, to that point, my question is, our responsibility is to put together the what. You say the what is that the framework still. The responsibility of the lead entity, whoever they are, is to build everything else under. What staffing do they need? How they plan to get the work done. That's my understanding. Maybe I'm a little bit off, so you can help me with that. Because I don't want us to get stuck in the how-to, when that's their role. We're just looking at what is it going to take for them to come in and say, this is what we're looking for. These are the qualifications. I have these qualifications. I want to apply for the work. And then this is what their responsibility is beneath that. Am I right or am I off base?
I think you're pretty much right. I think we are designing the opportunity to get the right person in place to carrying out the plan that was approved by the Board of Supervisors. There are going to be some areas of flexibility that the entity is going to be able to contribute their own thinking, of course, depending on their capacity, what they're bringing to the table, what they're able to leverage. I want to get more questions out there, so we just start having questions. Bianca?
When I was reading it, I just didn't, it made me feel as just that we weren't being intentional and we're not being strategic. I didn't hear anything about cultural competency in that at all. So anybody can apply, basically. Doesn't say that they have to know anything about the community of the community. So what will we do about that?
There are some places in there we can point to where we think we name it, but what I'm hearing is that it wasn't named clearly enough. So
No,
we'll go ahead and
not.
bring it all. Okay.
On the note of the what and the how that Pastor Harris brought up, that triggered me to ask this question about impact. They have to be able to provide some evidence of having provided, evidence-based practices or outcomes. But that's what we're looking at, like what kind of contributions can they make in this space? But in addition to what they've done, how are we going to measure, or have we even determined that? How are we going to measure their impact? I think that might be a deliverable for the first year. Is that correct? Or am I on the right thought process there?
Yeah.
Select and implement data collection tools, blah, blah, blah. I'm just wondering how are they even aware of how they're going to be measured or even assessed over time? Right? That's one of the questions that I would have if I was applying for this. I know what I can do now, but in terms of the future and getting the funding moving forward, what am I being held to from an expectation standpoint?
Thank you. Angela?
So I think we probably need to figure kind of like, what does good look like? So one of the things that we talked about at Rose Family is we would leverage off of Sierra Health assessment tools. There's some of the tools and documentation that they already stood up. Is there an opportunity to get that in-house so that we can have, measurable delivery? And kind of use, like I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Use their documentation that's been used to assess other, I think they call them incubators. And then present that so folks will know what they are being measured on.
Okay, and then can we get the assessment tool from the secretary, to the folks in Sacramento that we received? Okay, any other questions or comments, thoughts? Okay, so just to kind of reiterate, what we're hearing is that, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I just had one thought as we're talking about data resource tools, because a lot of what the lead entity is going to have to do is bring community partners together that are doing multiple things, that are placing referrals. And so understanding what their knowledge is around social health tracking tools that may already exist. Think of two that are big ones already, Unite Us platform and Find Help resource tools.
Can you say that again, please, Leslie?
The Unite Us platform and Find Help.
Applied Health?
Find Help.
Find.
Those are social health networking tools that can have community-based organizations that can place referrals to other organizations in a trackable way. So I think it's important for us to understand the lead entity's capacity or what their knowledge is around social health tracking tools, because I think that's going to be key for the community-based groups that will be selected to provide resources out of the hub.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And to that point, would this body be responsible for helping to point people in the right direction? Once we get, I know we're talking about recruiting and selection and that type of thing as part of our scope of work. How do we do that to encourage people to apply, for example? Because I think that's part of what we're being asked to do as well. So it means that we have to have a tight understanding of what it is we're looking for. And so we have to pull those assessment tools, that the information. Some of us don't know about all the things that are out there. I think that's where we get the wealth of information from the room, because everybody brings a different piece. So how, in the time that we have, do we have the ability to have some of these things presented? It sounds like ad hoc committees, pull some things together and bring it in and present it. Is that process?
So yes, I mean, if I'm hearing your question right, correct, Pastor, yes, we're going to be relying on all of you to help spread the word, to help kind of encourage folks to apply. So I think, but we're asking everyone to help spread the word. We're going to spread our cast our net wide. I think that's answering your question.
To piggyback off of what Reverend Harris was saying, we don't have a lot of time.
No.
To do this. Okay. I don't know if people thought about that, because I know that a lot of this work is already in motion ahead of time. But because we don't have a lot of time, he mentioned ad hoc meetings so that we can bring information to the meeting, these sessions. We're only meeting once a month. It's not enough. Technically, if you really want to be successful. I mean, you can still stay the course, but the probability of you being successful is very low at a meeting with someone. I'm just saying, as you mentioned, the ad hoc meetings. I don't want to meet more often, but I think we have to meet more often to figure this out.
Thank you. Just to kind of piggyback on that time thing, I'm kind of concerned, most certainly. There's been a lot of areas and stuff that need to be covered. But sometimes in putting together the plan, we push it much too fast to really get something that's gonna work. So while this committee meeting once a month and the time frame, I think it's already been established when the RFP is due. Do we have the latitude to adjust that?
Yeah, nothing was established, that was what proposed, but that's what this group is here
Yeah.
talking about.
So want to put on the table, let's not move, we want to move expeditiously, but not so fast that we don't cover what we need to cover.
To that point though, there's a proposed timeline that we're talking about. If we're gonna hit being able to start 2026 doing something, and hit the 2029 timeframe of having a building. There's already narratives out in the world that said that 2029 is when the target is. It's not true. But to Willie's point, we've got to work on it not too fast, but we got to work on it fast enough that we can not push that 2029 date or push the 2026 date. Because something needs to happen. We already have to add somebody else to the TCAB, and we've got the alternates that are pushing some things back, regards date-wise. So how do we manage and massage the dates? Because 2029, we're looking to have a facility in place based on the fact that the county has a building that should be available to be inhabited by then. And so part of the challenge from a community conversation is it's too long, it's too late, but that's only one part of the narrative. And so how do we as a TCAB massage the time so we can meet the deadlines that are proposed, because those are critical in my perspective.
And do we need are folks suggesting we have an ad hoc committee to work through the RFQ? No, okay, I'm just wondering.
With the schedule of this whole thing, I think that needs to be looked at more critically in terms of the realisticness of it.
Yeah.
Most certainly the dates have been put out there, but I've had background in scheduling and milestones, et cetera. But all at the same time, you can put stuff out there that is not achievable. And you're gonna try to meet it, but when you try to meet it, there's so many holes drop, things drop through the crack, and you don't get what you intended to do. That's just my concern, but focusing on scheduling most certainly is important. Setting milestones that's achievable and result oriented. That milestone one, if you're heading with 5 milestones to get to the end, each one of those milestones got to be able to deliver precisely what you needed to deliver.
I hear you. I'm just wondering, I got one comment on the RFQ in 2 weeks, just let the record show. So that's why for me, I'm just wondering, do we need to stop and go slower? Or is there just, you know what I mean? Like, or are you talking about overall? Like, I see that you're saying like overall milestones, but
Maybe
I just wondering, yeah.
Maybe this group need to be divided up into certain one of those milestones and having specific focus that we do some of the homework in between our meetings.
Okay.
So that's the ad hocs. We're talking about.
So a couple of things, just so I'm kind of, I wanna reiterate what we're hearing. Definitely think that there's some areas here that clearly aren't clear enough, so we deserve some more digging in deeper to kind of lift up. All the things that were mentioned, I think were addressed to a degree, but if it doesn't come out clearly that the applicant must have cultural competency and have proven experience and a track record of working within and for and alongside Black community for Black health, then it didn't do the job. If it's not clear enough about having the results oriented with metrics clearly laid out as to what they're going to be measured against to determine success, then it didn't do its job. There's areas that we need to do some work. I also want to reiterate that what we're hearing there is a very real dynamic. For many in the community, this process has taken too long. It's been taking over 2 years to get to this point. And during that time, people literally have lost lives, lost homes, health has been compromised. And we are seeing this every day in our communities. And no one in this room denies that, right? Everyone, we all recognize that. And yet the very, very real dynamic, which is we move too fast, we may drop some balls and then produce something out that is not complete or isn't absolutely thoughtful. And then that is just going to create potential problems down the road that we should have been able to at least anticipate and prepare for if we would spend a little more time. So we're dealing with some dynamics here. I love the idea of actually having ad hoc committees to try to get some work done. And now that we have a chair and a vice chair, that's going to help us a long way because this really is your body here. You are going to be able to determine how fast we move ahead. We cannot necessarily determine that for folks, but we can support it. So once we have leadership that we can meet with to provide us with some direction on how you would like us to get information out to you, solicit your participation, I think that is really going to help. And the last point I just want to kind of lift up, our timeline, as everything in here, this is what we are proposing based on the plan that was approved by our Board of Supervisors. And we must stay within that context because that is what was approved. If there's any significant shifts from the actual, like the goal of what was approved, then it requires us to go back to the Board of Supervisors. And that in itself is a process, which is not impossible, but it's a process that actually takes some time. The board has approved this implementation plan as is, so meaning the dollars that we have to work with, those are pretty much set. They were very clear. This is what we have to work with. The implementation plan, based on a very intense and robust and thick feasibility study. We provided that with you all, I think, day one, like 200+ pages. So we don't expect you to have already read it all, but that is going to be our go-to reference because there's a lot of data and research that is in there. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's pretty comprehensive. And we are asking, because the board directed us to stay in that document. And first, let's live in our feasibility study to draw the necessary community data around health disparities, around what the community has said are their priority needs. Let's get what the geographic areas are that need to be prioritized. We did our best to rely on that feasibility study, feasibility study to inform our implementation plan. And that's that like 30-40 page document that we ought to give you. But the implementation plan is what was approved. So I want to put some bumper guards a little bit on how we are thinking about what the parameters are in terms of what we are working with. That is to say, each and every single one of you bring your own expertise, your own experience, your own perspective to add some nuance, to ask the good questions. If this group, after we've done our due diligence to look at both the feasibility plan and the implementation plan, still have more questions, then we can do that, knowing that that may continue to prolong or make the process longer. And if we need it, we need it. But collectively, we need to understand that that is something we will need to then explain to both our community members who are looking in closely, listening closely, as well as to our elected officials who are also expecting some progress. I truly believe, though, the more transparent we are with both the community and our electeds with what this process takes to get it right, then people will understand. Doesn't mean that folks will always be happy, but they'll understand. Well, I'm really encouraging each and every single one of you taking this job really seriously, and none of y'all want to make reckless or rash decisions because we just didn't take the time. So I'm just kind of reframing what I'm hearing from you all. Is this landing? Is this sound? Yeah, it's resonating.
The onboarding of the chair and the vice chair, meeting with the present staff and having them look and take and their expertise in terms of moving us forward, that will happen when?
We're gonna reach out to them like tomorrow and set up some dates so we can try to meet before Christmas for sure. And it's probably gonna take more than one conversation, given there's a lot. Something we realize just is like, we love that you all are here, but we also realize most of you, the majority, not all of you, are just catching up now to what's been happening the last 2 years. And so it's gonna take some time to catch up.
So a draft plan with some of these milestones, we can expect after you guys get together and present maybe your idea of the schedule and
Is
then.
that why you sat by the door? You leaving now?
So why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Why don't we try to determine what is it that this group is hoping to receive at the January meeting?
Yeah.
Based on conversations that our office and the chairs have.
Are you asking that question? You asked, can we
I'm
talk
asking,
about that
yeah,
now?
yeah, can we talk about that
So
now?
you've already highlighted one of them, and that's determining what these ad hoc committees are doing. Like, I don't want to throw out ideas right away, but what are the labels on these committees? And I would also say, like, what are the rules around meeting outside of this meeting? Because I heard from our last board meeting, like, we can't really have these one-offs. So I just want to get some clarity around what are the rules for ad hoc meetings or groups to convene.
Okay. I want to get, so I can answer that really quickly.
Okay.
We just cannot achieve quorum out of this public meeting. Quorum is 7 members. So that means an ad hoc committee can never be more than 6. And in order for then an ad hoc committee to be able, and so an ad hoc committee, if it's an ad hoc committee, it does not have to be public or agendized public. If it's like a formal subcommittee with actual formal members and it meets kind of regularly for a sustained amount of time, those also have to be publicly agendized and follow all the same rules as this meeting. But ad hoc committees tend to be a little bit more informal, shorter duration for a very specific task. It comes back with very comprehensive updates to this body so that the public can hear exactly what was discussed. But ad hoc tends to be a lot more shorter duration and again, task oriented.
Team task leaders, you establish a task, you assign a team to it, come from this committee. Ad hoc may be a little bit more, maybe something that you may look at a different word for it, but a team, if you got a task, it seems to me you can assign a team because they're just bringing information back based on what we're hearing
Okay,
on a specific task.
thank you. I like that better. Okay. But what I'm hearing is that the next time you want very clear, like, what are the specific ad hoc meetings that, ad hoc teams, what are the tasks that they will be assigned, and some of the roles and whatnot. Okay, that's what you want at the next meeting. Anyone else?
What does success look like?
Okay.
To define. What's that gonna look like and associate the milestones as we move forward? Like, what do we want to accomplish? What does the board of supervisors expect us to do in January?
Okay, so what is success of the TCAB role,
Or-
not of the entity that we're trying to?
Right, just. We've got to make progress, right? We have to have like a schedule within the schedule to make this successful, right? What do we want to accomplish in January? I think we talked.
And I'll just share that, I know folks were really digging into or like thinking about different data approaches at the November meeting. I met with our data analysts to review the data. I found like street names and key landmarks for those census tracts. So it's actually real, like, instead of 5467, it's like this community center and this freeway. And so we did start to like put together like a little bit of a deeper dive on the data for folks, just so that that's a little bit more real. And we thought that we would accompany that with the conversation around the RFP, which is around the program offerings. That's not the word that we use in the thing, but my brain is at 7 o'clock. But and around the census tracts. So I did hear a request for like, let's see what we have and like, let's understand it. And so I wanted to make sure that I worked to make that more clear for folks. So I started working on that. We don't have to do that in January if that doesn't meet the needs of the body, but just want to let folks know that because the meetings are so long, but that we meet only once a month, I'm trying to make it a pace that makes sense, but it is intense.
So are you able to share that, maybe email it to us, the results? Because that's very important. Whatever research you're getting from the data, So as opposed to bringing it up in the meeting where, we have other things to talk about, but the result from the data is very important as well. If you can maybe share it by email, whatever you're pulling up.
So what Jessica's talking about is again, that feasibility study that was completed earlier in this year. And so what she's asking, what they're asking is, if when we lift up the highlights, specific maybe components or parts of the report to zero in on, she email that to you ahead of
Yeah,
time.
if you can
Absolutely.
share, if it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, and the only new data would have been those kind of street boundaries and neighborhood names and landmarks, and so happy to share that too. I just wanted to make sure that it didn't seem out of like random because we're not really talking about this now, but I can share it ahead of time.
And you're saying that's defining, I guess I had raised a question about census tracking. What do you really mean by that? So that
Yeah.
information supporting that, you have that.
Yeah, doing it, I worked, did my best to figure out like what are actual intersections, freeways, neighborhood names, landmarks in those areas, rather than just some arbitrary number. And I can say that I've never, only actually one neighborhood I have directly lived in. So this is also something that like needs to be ground truth by the body that might live in those areas as well.
I just wanted to say, because when you asked the question about what does success look like, in my mind, success for our TCAB committee is for us to approve an RFQ that we feel has all of the information and qualities that we want to see in a lead entity. And so just make sure that we're making sure that all those things are in the document. She brought up cultural competency. I brought up make sure they have something in there, make sure they have an understanding of social health data resource platforms that can be trackable. But I just want to make sure that when we build out these ad hoc committees, that we're not getting into programmatic build outs, because that's not our job. Our job is to make sure that this RFQ has all the information that this lead entity can take on the work. Same thing for the RFP, that we make sure that all the information is in there around, around strategies for the health needs that were identified in the community. That we make sure that we have all the right information, and we get nonprofits that can apply and do the jobs of those priority areas in there, so.
That, if I may want to add to that, that makes me think about the CalAIM program, state of California, that the lead entity needs to be aware of what services and resources are there that are available today that are addressing the social determinants of health today, because that's the community that we're serving. Those high need communities, those Medi-Cal members and Medicare members, it's out there, it's available today. So we need to be aware of that and how those services are being used.
Or at least their knowledge.
The
Do
knowledge
they have
of-
knowledge?
Right,
Do they have knowledge of CalAIM
exactly.
resources and what's their
Right.
expertise in working with them?
Right.
And how do we measure that? Anybody come and say, I've got knowledge, that's that.
No, it's, you can have knowledge of it, but are you an approved provider for
That
it?
point.
Yeah, you have to be an approved provider. Yeah.
Okay. This is really helpful. But can we just kind of continue to dig a little bit more into like, if folks did have a chance to really kind of read this RFQ with a lot of attention, are there any other things that jumped out to you? There was also some other areas in there. There was a description of what an ideal criteria and what ideal criteria looks like. There was a scoring rubric in there. Do those help get at some of these things that you all just mentioned? And then I just want to get back to the first point. Are we even clear? Like, does this RFQ clearly articulate what the role of this implementation, this lead entity is supposed to do?
In my opinion, it does. It's pretty comprehensive.
Well, it's not clear because, you have to really get into it, and just cursorily looking at it, it's not gonna become clear. So as we put together these various teams that's gonna be looking at various components, it's gonna become clearer. So what I see right now, it was really just a cursory look at it. I didn't get off into it to the degree that those who actually put it together have. Okay.
When I say it's clear to me, actually covers key points. Now, the drill down in it, in terms of your question, does it cover the key points? And I think it covers the key points. Now, the nuts and bolts of it, I don't necessarily believe in the RFQ have to actually be spelled out. But we're talking about 30,000 would look at this thing as opposed to looking at it on the ground. And it depends on what our viewpoint is expected to be at this point. Are we looking at ground level or are we looking high level? And then we can in my opinion, hone in on what it is that we're asked to do. When we got it, we read it. What lenses were we looking at it through? And I think that is critical. What lenses were we using? There's some great information about cultural competency and the social determinants and those types of things. But to what degree these individuals or entities are focused on getting it done, because their job is to build it out. And so we just expected, from my perspective, make sure the framework is there, but then they have to build it out to ground level. Maybe I'm misinterpreting.
The only thing I would add, and pardon me if I've not looked at, I'm looking at my phone, so looking at the slides. I just recall from the Black Child Legacy visit, one of the things that the executive director really underscored was the ability of this lead and the other organizations to work collaboratively. We are one. We are not these separate entities that have our own remits and are held to our own individual expectations. So I'm bringing that up because that was a theme that was very consistent. But for those of us that were here, we are one. So is there any way of assessing this applicant's ability to collaborate? Do they have a history of collaborating successfully or effectively with other organizations in the work that they do? Because if the answer to that is yes, then hopefully that would be indicative of their ability to work as one in this network. And I don't really, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I don't see the word collaborate. And maybe that's something that should be really brought up to the surface, because they need to understand this is not just their mission, this is the network's mission as well.
And kind of to piggyback on that, when I was looking at the qualifications and weighing, one thing that did come up for me is just if the partnership coordination and collaboration skill should be weighted more heavily because of what she just said. It's a network lead entity role. So do we want to put more weight on that?
In terms of the scoring.
So I think what I'm hearing, sorry, Lauren, I didn't mean to
I
interrupt
was
you.
just thinking that this entity not only needs to know how to collaborate, but also needs to be able to mentor and coach other members in the network on how to collaborate. I remember one of the themes that came up was that they had partners who weren't collaborating at the level that they needed to collaborate at, and they had to leave the network until they could meet the expectations. And so this entity needs to be able to set those standards, but not only set those standards, but help the other network members meet those standards as well.
So one thing I'm hearing is that like in the scope of work, it's maybe not naming things that perhaps the qualifications name and that the scoring sheet, like there's things that folks want to hear. They want to hear collaborate, but maybe it's not until the end of the ranking sheet. And it should be more up forefront in the or the cultural competency is in the eligibility space, but it's not up forefront at the beginning of the thing, and that there should be some more like collation of these so that it's some of these things are clear throughout and not just in these individual sections. I feel like that's something that I'm hearing. I just want to look that back to folks.
I feel that's accurate. I see like collaborative experience, for instance, that's embedded within like a team member's experience. This is the organization and the team. So if we can kind of bring that up in addition to like the cultural competency. It is, for African Americans. So that, like she had said earlier, Bianca, we need to like highlight that.
Just right here, okay? I think some of this stuff is implied. I'm not sure. I just want to go.
I'm not all here.
This is ridiculous. This ain't equity.
We're gonna,
This is the second time.
we're gonna talk about the end of the meeting.
They need to fix that.
You just saw your text right here.
As cold as it is, it's freezing outside, and I got a baby, 2 kids.
Sorry to interrupt. Just so folks, this is the second time that we've had a particular public member out the door. We're gonna address that in a moment. We do apologize for your number, but I just looked into that, like, you're gonna go down this, so I just saw that. But we have been, apologies. So then, you were talking?
I was just agreeing, I don't want to spend more time, but I was just kind of saying, bring it up forward to the front and not let it fall down into the wording. Or to the team member responsibilities.
And I'll work with the chair and co-chair on this, but I know that there were specific like pieces of the RFQ, like some of it had a bunch of language from the county council that we just have to have in there. But the specific places that we're talking about, like eligibility requirements, scope of work, ranking, maybe those are where the ad hoc, we'll talk about it, but maybe those are where the ad hoc committees, need to drill down so that there's an opportunity to get more focused on those. If that's the suggestion, at this time. I know that I have some public comments, but I don't want to like cut any more things short. And I'm not sure if there's a motion made for how we want to move forward with this. Or if Peter, if you have a suggestion.
Yeah, my suggestion is that we go ahead and wrap up this conversation, but I think we do need to take public comment. We can hear public comment and then we can recommend a motion that you can put forward in terms of how we move for this item. And then we'll go and try to speed through the other items. How does that sound? Chair, do the chair, how does that sound to you?
It sounds fine to me.
Yes, for public comment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I first had Narisa Harris. Thank you for your patience.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes or no? I'm not sure if you can hear me. Yes, okay. So I'm just trying not to take too long, but I just want to reiterate what has been said. I can't see everybody on the peripheral, but I think Dr. Nichols just said Bianca made this comment earlier about whoever is hired for this executive director position should have some cultural competency. And I know we're kind of saying that over and over, but I just really want to name from a professional and personal perspective, like this should be top tier, especially this being an African American hub. Too many times we have people who are not competent working with our families, working in our communities, and doing more harm than good. And so I kind of want to just put that out there, and how Dr. Nichols also just talked about collaboration and the importance of us being one. Like just in general, that's an African American principle if we look at MIAD principles, right? And so us just really working together. Again, I'm talking to you all as a resident in Contra Costa County, as a person that works in these counties, and working in nonprofits, working for myself. It's detrimental when people come into our communities, get these grants, and they don't have the cultural competency or the relatability to work with our people. And so I just really want to put that out there and just name I second, third, fourth, and fifth that being put at the top of the hiring criteria and the rating. I think you called it a rating sheet. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, thank you, Narissa.
Thank you, Narissa. And I have Zalon.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm confused. So are you guys looking at this to get an agency, the RFP to a nonprofit that's someone, the organization is already established, and then you guys are also looking to establish a nonprofit and an executive director. So are these two different things going on at the same time, or I'm confused by, is this one for another person? I don't understand what's going on. Like, why are you guys having an RFP and establishing a nonprofit and looking for an executive director?
Yeah, so thank you for that. If I could respond to this. So we're looking, this is to solicit an implementation lead entity, and part of their role is to hire an executive director who will be under their employment to lead the network, right? And then their job is also to establish a board of directors and a community council. Basically, this lead entity is to come in and to create the organization that will steward and facilitate and establish this African American, or now the Federal Glover Community Wellness Network. It is not the intention that this lead will be in that role forever, but that they come in, they get it off the ground, they hire an executive director, they create the infrastructure with a board of directors and a community council, and then this new 501c3 nonprofit organization will continue to live on, and then the entity's role after 3 years will be to move on. Does that make sense, Zalan?
Will they be applying for this RFP that you guys are talking about right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, now I got it. Thank you.
And did that make clear to this room that that's what we're trying to do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other public comments? Let's see, and I'm so sorry, Velma, because I told you I'll get to your comment in a minute. And I didn't realize you were here. I'm so sorry.
Do we have any public comment in the room?
There were two other public comments online. Art Harris, and then there was an anonymous attendee. I'm not sure if you still want to make your comment. We did noted it. It's listed in the Q&A, but if you wanted to share it verbally, you can as well.
I'll read it out loud unless, okay. Will independent consultants or smaller agencies be considered as service providers as well? Will community members be able to have a say or a vote?
So independent consultants, smaller agencies absolutely can apply to the RFQ and the RFP. Same rules apply though, they just have to meet eligibility criteria as a qualified applicant. But in terms of that question around, do community members have a vote? Community members at large will not have they're not gonna be a part of the review panel processes. Neither will actually anyone on this body be a part of the actual review processes. Our office will be creating review panels whose responsibility is to read, score, all of the different proposals that come in. However, our office in the past and continue to include people with lived experience, community members as part of the review panels. But I'm not sure if the question is saying like, are we just gonna go ahead and put out all the proposals and applicants out to the broader community and then let everybody kind of chime in? That's not how, no, that was not what the process was. Does that make sense to these people in this room? And I hope that answers that person's question.
I have one more public comment from Mr. Harris. It says, I'm hoping to learn more about the services that you need from mental health professionals like myself.
Yeah. So, Mr. Harris, if you're still listening, you know, when we get to the RFP.
Oh, yes, I'm here. I'm still listening.
Okay. I don't, thank you. So to your question, yeah, when we start talking about the RFP, the request for proposals for rapid response services, I think that's where you'll be really wanting to kind of key in. I think that's what they're asking about, but that's not what we're discussing this evening. So sorry for the confusion.
Thank you. You guys cleared it up. I heard when my wife was talking. I think it made sense to me also.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, though.
Thanks for having us.
Time check, 17 minutes.
Thank you. So we should, these two that we should start at here.
So we can get a motion from the group. If we can go ahead and direct staff to receive your comments, to incorporate it into another draft of this RFQ, to have a discussion at the next meeting. And also in the meantime, work with the new chairs, the chair and the vice chair, and do the things that you asked us, ad hoc committee conversation, and to get some real direction on how to proceed for the next meeting. That would be the motion that I recommend, chairs. That someone puts forward.
I would move, but to try to repeat things you're saying, I know the focus was on directing staff to incorporate the comments from this meeting tonight into the RFP, and also to onboard the chair and vice chair and present a draft of the schedule going forward.
Some clarification though. Are we talking RFP or we talking RFQ?
We're gonna gotta get the RFP to you as well, but we thought we would start here, the RFP, because there's so much information. If we sent you the RFP, it would just be over the qualifications for us. Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Can we get a quick? Can we get a quick vote around the room? We just yeah.
Nitty? Bianca?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Made the motion. Reverend Harris?
Yes, but they still.
Oh. Willie, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, because you made the motion. I didn't mean to exclude you. Walter?
Aye.
Rachel? Yes. Elima?
Yes.
Yep.
Lauren? Aye.
Yep.
Mariah? Aye. Angela?
Aye.
Cool. Okay, so thank you so much to our timekeeper. We are going to, there are some things that were in the PowerPoint that we're not going to address tonight. We'll work with the chairs to figure out the best way to incorporate those moving forward. And thank you. Yeah, the RFQ is more important, and making sure that we're doing it appropriately is more important. So we're gonna move with what's emergent. And we wanna let folks know, you would have seen an email from me today that the alternates, we talked about having 4 alternates or 3 alternates. And that there is an application out now. So feel free to forward that. I believe that it closes on the 12th, which is Friday. I put 5 when I had to submit this to, we submit it publicly 5 days in advance. But actually, as of today, there are 11 applications. And we've been outreaching through our CBO partners and county channels. Please feel free to forward to anyone that you would, that you think you would like to serve. We're hoping to have interviews in early January in our already tightening agenda for January. Just kidding. If we need to move things and make it better, I appreciate it. And I think it'll be better served for everyone. So that's great. But our goal is to onboard alternates before the February meeting. That's just a little quick update there.
So does this body have any insight? I mean, have the ability to vote?
No, not on the new members. So just as a quick context setting here, right? This body was formed, the interview process appointed 13 members. Almost immediately, one person resigned. So that's how we have 1 vacancy for an active member for the 13th seat. That's 1 vacancy. Then through your bylaws, what was approved was 3 additional alternate seats. So now that's where you have the 3 additional vacancies. So that's 4 vacancies that we're going to be interviewing for. We do not do the interviewing, and neither do you all. It's the equity committee, just like you all were interviewed. That's where the next set of interviews will be. As Jessica said, we have 11 applicants. We're hoping to get more before Friday, but the plan is that the equity committee will probably interview the top 10 based on their review of the applications. We're hoping that that'll go to the equity committee on January 19th, I believe. No, yeah, equity committee, January 19th.
And I will keep you abreast. The equity committee meetings are also public, and so you can, if you'd like to be there and make comments, or you can. Public person.
And the equity committee will determine who's like the member and who are the alternates.
But if you like to deal with us, they'll recommend to the board will accept it. That how it goes.
Yep, but the board typically accepts the committee recommendation, typically. For things like this, So, okay, So that was just receiving information, so no need to vote on that one. This one is to receive another update on, feedback from our equity committee, regarding the naming of our network. So at our last TCAB meeting, you all, voted and recommended the name to be changed from the African American Holistic Wellness and Resource Hub to the Federal Glover Community Wellness Network. Federal Glover Community Wellness Network. We brought that to Equity Committee last month. They liked it, but there was a comment from Supervisor Scales Preston, who said she still has real interest in including the term African American or something that just clearly and explicitly names the heart and soul of what this project is about, is dedicated to working with, lifting up, and supporting our Black community. We shared with her that conversation was had here, that a lot of things were weighed out amongst you all, but that was our direction, so we're bringing it back to you all. She understands that there's kind of two things that we're wrestling with here, right? One is, we need to be very clear and forthright and assertive that that's what this project is and always has been about. We are specifically naming the impetus and the heart of what this works on, caring for and prioritizing the wellness of our Black communities. And I think something was also discussed here, but is that, are we also either inadvertently drawing the kind of attention and target on this work, given the current administration and the chilling effect that it's having on all work that is focused on vulnerable communities, marginalized communities, the anti-DEI attack that is happening in very real ways. That's the other kind of side of things that we have to weigh. As an example, for some context, when we released this TCAB application solicitation and our county released it on social media feeds, we received a lot of comments from folks that are in the community that I would probably describe them as more the far right, conservative area things. And there was absolutely a lot of comments that were concerning, disheartening, and also I believe this might be misinformed and just not quite clear on what this TCAB is about or what this large project is about, but definitely kind of creating a kind of narrative that being very clear that this was a TCAB for an African American Holistic Wellness Hub that it attracted, right? Things like, oh, this is just another group of folks who are what was the word? Trying to embezzle funds or trying to launder monies to their cronies, assuming that this was just about trying to benefit our own communities by stacking a TCAB that's going to decide where the money goes. Clearly, we just described, you actually don't decide where the money goes. That is not who you are. We have very strict conflict of interest protocols. You all have absolute integrity above and beyond what these folks are claiming. But that's the kind of attention that they can attract. So the other thing to be very clear about is that these are all tax dollars that we are using. Tax dollars must be, if they're going to be used, must be able to benefit all of our Contra Costa residents. And I think everyone here is clear that whatever we create will be open to those in the community who need those services. It's not going to be exclusionary of any other group. But it's kind of like what Lauren said earlier. It's like the idea of targeted universalists. We focus on those who are the most vulnerable, most impacted, and we support those lift up, then everyone benefits, everyone rises, right? And we've also heard time and time again from all of our providers, particularly our African American community providers. They never say no to anyone who walks through the doors asking for support services. And we also just look historically, Black communities have always opened their arms for folks who need support. So I'm just trying to say, we understand that all that is false narrative, but it does attract the false narratives and that type of attention. I am reiterating to you all, that you all had discussed that, plus adding some more content for you to consider. We do want to bring back to our equity committee what you all decided. They will honor your recommendation, but they did want you to have one more discussion. So I want to make sure you had information. Yep.
So the name Federal Glover, that was recommended or something by the board that they wanted that in there, correct?
So Federal Glover's name does have to be in there. That is a board voted direction, yes.
Okay.
Board approved direction, yes.
Or were you just getting ready for a really long name?
It's gonna be a long name. I also, we expressed to them also like just the mechanics of a long name, an acronym that rolls off the tongue. I mean, a lot of different things to consider.
I wanted to add one of our community members who's here today. I don't want to steal her thunder, but I think you had offered a name that would incorporate one of the African American traditions or principles. It was one of the ones that we voted on, but I just offered that back up because I think we got a couple of positive reactions to that.
I voted for that
Was
one.
that, what was your?
Yeah, I'm gonna share it.
Yeah. They captured it, because it was voted, it was like number 2, right?
It was a vote,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, we offered that to we offered that to the
It
supervisor as
was a
well.
quantum.
We offered that to the supervisor as well, because we heard you and we offered it. Her immediate reflection was, because this is also in honor of the legacy of Federal Glover, and because that was what the board had voted on. Yeah, she would love to consult with the late supervisors, right, to see if the Moja kind of fits into the character and the spirit of how Federal Glover moved. Like she said, for example, there are other leaders that absolutely that resonates and kind of fits with their character and style. She felt with Federal Glover, she wasn't sure if that was more fitting or if African American was more fitting to just how he kind of moved throughout his career and what he was a champion of in terms of how he framed his priorities. Does that make sense to folks?
So we just need to add African American back in.
I don't know if you need to, I'm sharing
It
with y'all.
sounds like we do.
But
Right. I mean, we're okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm asking. Is that the specific ask? I'm sorry, my hand was raised, but I'm saying, is the specific ask that we add Federal Governor African American Wellness Network to the name?
the ask is to consider it. However, if this body feels like, no, it's too long, or for whatever reason, what we ask as staff is to provide us with a very kind of clear logic and like a rationale for why you choose the name that you recommend. Ultimately, the equity committee said, we want to honor what you all bring to forth, but she just felt strongly to at least put that back in the conversation. She did not say, y'all have to go and make the African-American such and such. That was not, it was not a directive. She very much wants to recognize and honor your leadership.
If, please forgive me, I noticed that I didn't write community in the thing, so that was my error, so.
Where does that fall in? It's the
It
federal
was supposed
government.
to be the Federal Glover Community Wellness Network.
That's what you all voted.
That's what you all voted on. I apologize. I was just trying to memorize it in my head and I'm not quite there. No, I got it now that I've done it wrong.
It's shorter though.
So you can have Federal Glover Wellness Network. Down below it says supporting African American members of Contra Costa County or some descriptive line underneath. So you keep the name and then you just put the description underneath. I mean, it would be a distinctive line, right?
Is the only objection of adding African American that people are gonna be so opposed to it that they're gonna start harassing?
I think that's something
Because, I
that
mean,
you have to
that's
just
gonna
go through. You have the Latina
That's already
side,
been
that and it works perfectly. So it's new for us. So we just have to write it out.
Well, so to be clear, there are other projects that are absolutely explicitly named, like, so Alameda County also have an African American wellness hub rating. City of Berkeley also has an African American Wellness Center. In 6th County of Santa Clara, and in San Jose, they have the Vietnamese American Services Center. These are county initiated projects. And then in Oakland, we have the Native American Health Center. They're not owned by the County of Alameda. They receive funding. So just I think the fear is less of, we can care what people say or think or whatever. I think the real question is, does this jeopardize this organization's ability to get funding from county, state, or federal opportunities in the future? I think that was becoming a bigger concern. Is that, are people gonna have to be in the defensive position all the time, fighting legal battles to prove the legality of their name and therefore distract from their focus on the work? I can't call it, Joe. I have my opinion, but I can't call it. Yeah.
No,
Angela?
it's 2 minutes.
Oh, we got 2 minutes.
So the point I was gonna make when I had my hand up before was I kind of think that we need to lean into it. I think that if we're doing it right, we're gonna be setting an example. I don't think we need to worry about haters, and at the end of the day, do we wanna speak the truth or not?
I agree.
Because I don't think that we should be worried about some future administration and what they might do. I think words mean things, and I think integrity matters.
I agree.
I agree. I'll just add to Walter's point that obviously we're in an anti-Black, Black erasure environment right now, whether we want to accept that or not. But Federal Glover's objective was to center Black people. So somewhere in the name, I agree with Supervisor Scales Preston, we need to uphold that expectation and really center who we are, regardless of what the federal government is doing right now, because we do run the risk of losing opportunities for funding, but it appears currently that the state will back us. So we have that in town.
So my question is, do we have a suggestion for a naming convention right now to put that back in?
Question?
Time. 9's up.
What you suggest, Jenny?
Right, yeah, just.
I'm sorry.
So go ahead. No,
I was gonna say we can try Federal Glover, African American Network and just remove the community and wellness, because I think it's just gonna be too long.
Hold on. Any other members?
Say that again, African American.
Federal Glover, African American Network.
Maybe a subtitle.
Wellness Center.
I mean, I don't really mind a long name. Like that doesn't, I don't think that will take away from anything.
Say red hair in here.
I think that works, with wellness.
And take community.
Well,
out.
wellness
Take
network.
community out,
Wellness
yeah.
Network.
Yeah, so the Federal Glover African American Wellness Network.
That works.
Okay. So we have the Federal Glover Network, the Federal Glover African American Network, the Federal Glover African American Wellness Network, and the original of the Federal Glover Community Wellness Network. Those are the three that I have down as the option.
We're going to talk about motion was supervisor going to talk to about a motion, bring that back to us, or what's happening with that?
Yep. She's gonna let me know. Yep. She's gonna reach
The
out.
motion is still out there as an opportunity, is what I'm hearing.
And if it is a motion, what would it be? Federal Glover,
What did we say before? We have that as something we were voting on.
Federal Glover Emoja Holistic Network.
Motion means unity. So we start looking at, we're talking about emotion means unity. So yes, it's kind of fits, but how does it fit now with our new naming convention? It's almost like applied. We talk about collaboration, and we talk about how people get along. It's like it's an applied principle that's in there, but do we need to call it out?
What if Federal Glover Federal Glover African American Umoja Wellness, because Umoja is unity. You don't have to say network or community. I mean, if that's assuming people know what Umoja means, it's pretty Google.
That's another.
How about we do this, folks? We have 4 options here. We will send it to. We have to have public. We can send it out to you all to consider in the meantime, but then we'll have to bring it back for voting, folks. Want to table this to the next meeting. It's up to you all. Someone wants to make a chair that make it allow. Move to just push this to the next meeting.
Move that we move this agenda item to the next meeting.
I second it.
All right, I'm gonna get a quick round of, is there anyone, raise your hand if you are, oh, yes. to postpone. Anyone votes no? Okay, so moved.
So I do want to close, we do have to address, like, something on the updates and accessibility. As folks have noted, this building is closed at 5 o'clock, and we've been doing our best to try to have folks down waiting, to keep it open. We have talked to the clerk of the board about the possibility of having this space open for longer and having security and support. That's not possible. We can, however, move the meetings to across the street at 1025 Escobar, where the board meetings take place. And in that case, we could have the accommodation of having the security and being open later. So that's one thought, is that we can move across the street for accessibility, so we don't have to like leave members out in the cold or leave community members out in the cold, which obviously is nobody wants to do. The second thing is that we can talk about the possibility of changing the time of the meeting. And so we can send out a doodle with some options for that. And I apologize, I missed public comment, so I'm gonna take public comment on the final thing. But I wanted to make sure folks knew that there's an opportunity to shift this space and this time to make it more accessible to the public. And we'll talk about that over doodle.
Okay,
So my comment is, if we have to honor the timekeeping. Otherwise, we should say we're gonna change the time to, 5:30 to 7:45. Just because there's no reason to keep time if we're gonna go over. Right?
Or you could ask for permission to add time to the agenda.
So I think maybe that's what we'll do when the alarm goes off. If we continue to talk, maybe whomever is speaking could say, can you stay for 10 more minutes or 15 more minutes?
Would that be a function of the chair, person who's chairing the meeting?
Yes.
I do need to take public comment on that last thing, but if folks need to.
well, can we get permission to actually get another 5 minutes just to wrap up the design comment and talk about that?
I would move to extend the meeting 5 minutes.
Thank you. Okay. Can we take public comment for the last item regarding the name of the whatever network? Who was it to have a hand up? Please consider what naming the network will signal to prospective service providers. That's the public comment. Please consider what naming the network will signal to prospective providers. Thank you. That's a great, that's from Anonymous. Thank you. That's a good comment.
Thank you, Anonymous.
Okay.
I think that speaks directly to cultural competence.
There it is.
That's a good thing.
Okay. Then finally regarding the thing, so again, we will send out a doodle poll. We're gonna text, we never really asked this group, we just assumed from the last group that this meeting should always happen in the evening after work to accommodate people's schedules. That's why it's at 5:30. However, if it is too difficult or people rather prefer, we're gonna see if folks would rather meet during the work week, during work hours. If that's the case, we can stay in this room because that door is open. But because that door closed at 5 and locked, we've asked security provided by sheriff, we've asked our facilities folks, we've asked everyone. They said no, long story short, can't leave that door propped open. So we want to keep it in the evening, we'll move it across the street to that building where they do have sheriff security. They can be asked to stay and keep the doors open, and then no one get locked out of the cold. So
is that something that we have to carry over to the next meeting?
no, we can vote right now on either one. We can vote right now on either one of them. You can vote right now if you choose to.
Next door.
I move that we move across the street, keep the same time.
A second.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do a quick round of voting then. Let me first can I get a hand of anyone who does not agree with that? Okay. So that means everyone votes yes. Raise your hand if you're actually in agreement. Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and our next meeting, which is January 12th, will be across the street in 10:25.
You have to go through the metal detector.
You have to go through the metal detector. To get in that building, you got to.
And then just the final thing about that is we have not been approved or budgeted for meals at this time. And so, but we do encourage if folks bring stuff. I bring my dinner. I occasionally eat it before the meeting. Sometimes